I'm Derek Waring, as it says on your handouts there. And today's presentation is stress less because we got a lot of stress in the world. I used to be the Dean of Counseling and Student Services here at Modesto Junior College for 14 years. I was also the Dean of Special Programs, which is Disability Services and EOPS. So I got a lot of experience with stress. As a dean, I have some additional stress credentials. I've been married for 48 years. I have 5 granddaughters. And so I've been through those types of things. And as we go along here, I'm going to be hitting buttons to try to keep up with my slideshow. The objectives today, by the way, there is no test. I told you there would be at the end, but there's not. So I just want you to sit back, relax. I promised that this would be a stress-free presentation, and it will be. So the objectives, though, today, we want you to learn to recognize stress. Know when you're feeling stress. We want you to be able to manage stress. So we're going to give you some indicators of what stress is, and then we're going to give you some tools that you can use to try to deal with stress. Why do we want to do this? Because stress is all around us. It's important for us to know when that is creeping up on us. Some people are more adept than others at handling pressures and stresses of life than others. And what's the difference? What makes someone able to handle stress and other people not able to handle stress quite as well? And those are the things that we're going to be talking about today. Some people get very overwhelmed with stress, and those who do not get overwhelmed with stress. What do they use that's different from the people that get overwhelmed? It's not the presence or absence of stress, because stress is going to be there. So we want you to recognize it and to be able to manage it. Again, our objectives for today. So what are some of the signs of stress? You probably already know before I ever ask this question. Stomach ache, headache, dizziness, eye strain, sleep problems, problems concentrating. Any others that people might add? Signs of stress? Have you experienced anything other than this as far as stress is concerned? Pardon?
Head shaking.
I'm sorry?
Their head's shaking.
Head shaking? Yeah. Nervousness? Shaking? Anything else? How about, yes?
Eye twitching.
Eye twitching? Yeah, that could be a sign of stress. Or a sign that you forgot your glasses.
Like lack of appetite.
Lack of appetite. That's a really good one. Lack of appetite. Physical problems like blood pressure, feeling nauseous, heart palpitations. All those can be signs of stress. So there are a lot of signs out there. People who are feeling stress may feel depressed or may feel low, like things just aren't right for them. It's not a happy day, and maybe not a happy day for a few days. They may feel tense, nervous, jumpy. I think somebody had mentioned that too. Unable to relax. Little things become overblown. So little things in your life that wouldn't have bothered you before really become deal breakers and put you over the edge sometimes. Afraid to make decisions. That's another sign of stress. You're afraid to make decisions because you have trouble concentrating. You have trouble deciding which way should I go, what should I do. You don't want to cause any more stress in your life. I have an example of stress at the office, and I hope this works. I check the links usually before I do my presentation. So if this happens to go to a link that, you know how that works on the internet. I'll get it down real quick if it does. But this is one I just wanted you to see. These are people that experience stress. This guy trying to get something to print, and the printer just spit ink at him, or the like how the guy stands up and he sees what's going on. He sits right back down. This is a man smoking in the restroom. Okay, that's just an example of how some people respond to stress. I don't know if you can relate to any of those. If you can relate to any of those, you might want to come see me. Symptoms of stress. Hard workers become workaholics. That might be how some people deal with stress. Quiet people become isolated. People withdraw from friends. They withdraw from family. They withdraw from their coworkers. And people who are stressed have a tendency to work harder, but to get less done. Little things become major issues that result in arguments or overreacting, like some of the things you just saw in our presentation there. People under stress don't enjoy things the way they used to enjoy things. And stress breeds stress. So if you're stressed at home, there's probably a pretty good chance that someone else in your house is feeling stressed, because either they're picking it up from you and you're helping everybody else along that road to being stressed too. Or a stressed person may act as if nothing's wrong. They deny it. They don't want anybody to know that they're under stress. There's some chairs up here if you want to grab these. Yeah, okay. Hate to see you sit on the floor. Excuse me 1 second. You need the other one too. Yes, those handouts are for you to keep. Write on them. You can write notes on them. Okay? There we go. Get everybody seated. We know that not having a chair can cause stress. Okay? Nothing's good or bad. This is something that I want you to take with you. It won't be on the test, but it's really important to keep in mind as you're feeling stressed. Nothing is good or bad. It's thinking that makes it so. And look who said that many, many years ago. William Shakespeare, the first family therapist. There's been a lot of study about how people think, and how we think affects the way that we feel, and the way that we feel affects how we behave. In fact, there's a whole counseling program set up on that. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy. And when you work with individuals, you try to get them to reframe the way that they think. If they're thinking negatively all the time, you try to reframe the things that they're thinking about to make it and put it into a more positive light. I didn't mention at the beginning, but I work on West Campus with Araceli. By the way, I want to thank Araceli for helping me here today. Araceli works at the Health Services Office, and I do too. I do counseling and therapy over there. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. And so when I retired from being the dean, that's something that I started doing on a part-time for health services over there. So we do see students over there for counseling and for therapy, and we help you find resources that are available either on campus, off campus, or we may do short-term therapy with you. We have 2 interns now from Cal State University, Stanislaus, that are working with us. They're working to be therapists. We also work in conjunction with Center for Human Services and Sierra Vista, and so we do refer students there. And we help students find resources and providers through their own insurance. So if they have insurance, we'll call while you're there if you want us to, and help find providers and get you plugged in too. So I want to give you that plug. So you know, if you do need to talk to somebody, you have some concerns or anything brings up any questions from this presentation, you can contact us at Health Services. And if you call over there, and we'll give you the number before we're finished, they'll set up an appointment for you to meet and talk. Okay? So cognitive therapy actually is something that I use a lot with students in trying to get them to look at the way they're thinking. We take examples. I have them do a worksheet when they go home, and when something happens, you know, I ask them to think about how you respond to it. Do you respond by saying, oh my God, this is the end? I'm never going to make it through this. This is going to be a catastrophe. Or do you respond by saying, hey, that's life. You know, we have problems. We have obstacles that come up in life. I'm going to make it through this. And after I make it through this, I'm going to be stronger. So we want you to start thinking more along those lines as opposed to, you know, the negative way of thinking. I coached softball and athletes for many, many years. And you probably all know, if you follow football or baseball or if you ever watched the Olympics, most athletes now have their own sports psychologist that they work with. And that person's job is to help them get centered, to help them realize when they're up there, and those are pretty stressful situations sometimes. When you're at the plate, bases are loaded, you're in the World Series, and if you hit, if you get a hit, you win. If you don't get a hit, you lose. Do you want to be really, really nervous when that happens, or do you want to be as relaxed as you possibly can be and be able to perform at 100%? I think you probably want to be pretty well relaxed and realize that you're going to do the best you can do. And sometimes you succeed, and sometimes you don't succeed. And if you don't succeed, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. In baseball, there are people making millions and millions of dollars a year that only succeed 3 times out of 10. If you have a 300 batting average, that is extremely high in baseball. But that means that you go up to bat 10 times, you only get 3 hits during that time. So, you know, you can't always be successful. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. Also, learning how to relax, relaxation techniques, closing your eyes, imagining yourself doing things the right way, imagining yourself being relaxed, that's a very helpful technique too. Okay. So I think I mentioned it earlier, don't make a catastrophe out of everything. It's helpful to train yourself not to believe that everything is the end of the world, because it's not. If you watch the news nowadays, they will convince you that it's the end of the world. And sometimes it's good just to turn the television off, turn the news off, and do something else that you really enjoy doing, like homework. I know you do. Yeah. But by watching, watching something like the news, and there's a lot of negative stuff on the news, by watching that all the time or reading the newspaper, you can kind of get jaded and start thinking negatively. So it's important to recognize when you're kind of headed in that direction. And the other thing that is important to recognize is that if you're feeling this way, it doesn't mean you're going crazy. Okay, so that's because I get a lot of students that come in and they're very, very relieved when I tell them, no, you're not going crazy. People, go through this kind of stuff. It's normal to go through that. When students come in and tell me sometimes what they're going through, I'm thinking, gee, I would be concerned if you weren't stressed, because students are going through a lot these days, not only with school, but with things that are going on outside. So we realize when students come to school, they don't only get the stressors of school, but they have the stressors of their work life. They have the stressors of family life. A lot of our students are raising children. Some of them are raising children on their own. And that can be very stressful. So bringing that to school and trying to be successful at school too, that can be very, very tough. So no, you're not going crazy. So when you leave here today, I want you to repeat that over and over to yourself down the hallway. And then people are really going to be concerned about you. Okay. When I was in graduate school, University of San Francisco, I actually did a project. I mapped out the entire universe. And this is kind of what it looks like. Now, I was the only one to ever come up with a shape like that. But that is the universe from my perspective. And the neat thing is, I found the center of the universe. And that's it. If you measure all that around the edges, you find that's exactly the center of the universe. Things get really tough at the center of the universe because there's a lot of stuff going on, right? Everything happens at the center of the universe. Well, what I want to point out to you is that that's the center of the universe. And that over there, that's you. Okay? You're not in the center of the universe all the time, but we act as if we are a lot. And so we act as if the decisions that we make are going to have worldwide impact. They're going to be life and death situations. And they're usually not. I could say probably most of the time they're not. So it's important to realize you're not the center of the universe. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I'm saying that to make you feel a little less stressed. That every decision you make, everything that you take on yourself, doesn't necessarily have to be in the center of the universe there. So take yourself lightly. Take your job lightly. Okay? I mean, take your job seriously, not lightly. Don't tell your boss I said that. Take school seriously, but take yourself lightly. All right? Don't be too hard on yourself. If you get a bad grade, don't beat yourself up for weeks over it. Move on. Do better the next time. Okay? The other thing that we worked a lot with, I have worked a lot with, are students that were on probation. Either progress probation, academic probation, and that's tough for students. I explained to them that when I was my first semester in school, I had a 1.45 grade point average. And here I am, the Dean of Student Services, sitting on the other side of the desk telling them, my grade point average was lower than yours when I was a freshman in college. And I like to tell them that because I want them to understand that you can get from there to where I was as the dean. You never know where you're going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now. And decisions that you make are going to help you get there, but don't give up based on some negative things that might happen to you in your life. So I want students to know that you can have a 1.45 grade point average at the beginning of your college, and you can change that around, and you can make things happen down the roads. That's important. I want you to learn that lesson. Step outside of situations and look at it from a different perspective. If you're in a really tough situation, step back and say, all right, let's look at this from a different angle. You know, how might I deal with this? How am I dealing with it? How am I dealing with it that might be affecting me in negative ways? So be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like you would treat other people. Remember that? The old golden rule? And learn to look at things, you know, when I say look at things lightly, look at the humor in things. I'm going to read to you a college essay that, has anybody applied for four-year institutions yet? Like a UC, CSU? Sometimes when you do, they ask you to write an essay. And they will look at that essay based on how and what you put in it. And so I'm going to read this to you before you all get finished with it before I start reading it. But this is a person's answer to the question, in order for the admissions staff of our college to get to know you, the applicant, better, we ask that you answer the following question. Are there any significant experiences you have had or accomplishments you have realized that have helped to define you as a person? Here's the person's answer. I'm a dynamic figure, often seen scaling walls and crushing ice. I have been known to remodel train stations on my lunch breaks, making them more efficient in the area of heat retention. I translate ethnic slurs for Cuban refugees. I write award-winning operas. I manage time efficiently. Occasionally, I tread water for 3 days in a row. I woo women with my sensuous and godlike trombone playing. I can pilot bicycles up severe inclines with unflagging speed. And I cook 30-minute brownies in 20 minutes. I'm an expert in stucco, a veteran in love, and an outlaw in Peru. Using only a hoe and a large glass of water, I once single-handedly defended a small village in the Amazon basin from a horde of ferocious army ants. I play bluegrass cello. I was scouted by the Mets. I am the subject of numerous documentaries, and when I'm bored, I build large suspension bridges in my yard. I enjoy urban hang gliding. On Wednesdays, after school, I repair electrical appliances free of charge. I am an abstract artist, concrete analyst, and a ruthless bookie. Critics worldwide swoon over my original line of corduroy evening wear. I don't perspire. I'm a private citizen, yet I receive fan mail. I have been caller number 9 and won the weekend passes. Last summer, I toured New Jersey with a traveling centrifugal force demonstration. I bat 400. My deft floral arrangements have earned me fame in international botany circles, and children trust me. I can hurl tennis rackets at small moving objects with deadly accuracy. I once read Paradise Lost, Moby Dick, and David Copperfield in one day, and I still had time to refurbish an entire dining room that evening. I know the exact location of every food item in the supermarket. I have performed covert operations for the CIA. I sleep once a week, and when I do sleep, I sleep in a chair. And while on vacation in Canada, I successfully negotiated with a group of terrorists who had seized a small bakery. The laws of physics do not apply to me. I balance, I weave, I dodge, I frolic, and my bills are all paid. On weekends, to let off steam, I participate in full contact origami. Years ago, I discovered the meaning of life, but forgot to write it down. I have made extraordinary 4-course meals using only a moulie and a toaster oven. I breed prize-winning clams. I have won bullfighting in San Juan, cliff diving competitions in Sri Lanka, and spelling bees at the Kremlin. I have played Hamlet. I have performed open heart surgery, and I have spoken with Elvis, but I have not yet gone to college. So this person got accepted based on that letter. So look outside the box. I would imagine the people that read this letter thought, wow, we've got to have this guy or girl. I don't know if it's a guy or a woman. They got accepted and probably did a really good job. Okay? So keep that in mind. Look outside the box. Very effective ways to increase your stress level. Tracy Seymour wrote a book, 31 Days to Increase Your Stress, has taken a reverse psychological approach to this whole issue of how you look at stress. So these are backwards. Keep that in mind, these are backwards. And they're backwards for humorous reasons. So, but they really have a lot of meaning when you look at it. 31 days, very effective ways to increase your stress level. Think about all the terrible, awful things that could possibly happen to you or anyone you know someday. It's helpful to worry about things that you can't control. Okay? Remember, these are backwards. I'm not suggesting that you think this way. Be inflexible. Don't give in. Don't move. Don't budge. Don't change or compromise. It's a sign of weakness. Blame others. When people are stressed, have a tendency to blame other people. Blaming others doesn't get you any less unstressed. Lose your sense of humor. Having a sense of humor can help with stress. We have great senses of humor at health services. And we had great sense, actually Araceli worked with me when I was the Dean of Counseling and Student Services. We had great senses of humor over there too. Just want you to know. Take things personally. They're probably meant to be that way. Okay? Some people look at life that way, everything that happens, okay? So leave your work at the office, draw a line, lock the door, leave your work at school, leave your stressors at school, except when you have to go home and do your homework. But know where to draw the line. Know where to draw the line. Know when you're moving into that stress realm. There's an old Chinese saying that says, success is being able to sit on the bank of the river all day, doing nothing, and enjoy it. And people can't do that nowadays. A lot of people can't do that. They have to be doing something. They have to be up moving around. Sitting and relaxing and just taking in nature is sometimes tough. So making light of issues can reduce stress. A person who fires off a funny every now and then can be just as important as the person who crosses the T's and dots the I's. I remember when we used to have Student Services Council meetings, we used to laugh a lot because things get stressful. And so to come up with a funny every once in a while really helps you blow off steam, come back and go at it a little bit harder. So don't be afraid to have a sense of humor. People will let you know if it's out of line. All right? Try to keep it in line a little bit though. But the average American adult laughs 15 times a day. Children laugh 50 times a day. Where did we lose that? And I don't know who did this study, following people around, seeing how many times they laughed. But the message is that somewhere between being a child and becoming an adult, we lose our sense of humor. We lose the ability to see irony. We lose the ability to laugh at stressful things in our life. And they become catastrophes. Many doctors and therapists feel that we need to learn to lighten up in order to decrease the burnout factor. Learn how to appreciate and enjoy humor. Actually, there's studies now that show that laughter can help you medical-wise. I mean, as far as boosting your immune system. There's even studies that show that people who have cancer going through treatment do better if they have a better sense of humor. There was a movie out, Patch Adams. I don't know if anybody ever saw that. He was a doctor that used humor a lot for folks to help them heal, help them recover. And I read an article just the other day about the flu shot. I don't know if people read this, but I thought it was interesting. If you go in and take a flu shot when you're feeling good and happy, you actually build more antibodies than if you're going in and you're feeling down and sad. So go and get your flu shot when you're happy, okay? Or do it on a day that good things are happening. Don't go in when you're feeling really down, when it's rainy and gloomy and you're feeling down. So we want to boost your immune system. I like this because I like the idea of putting things in perspective and using humor to do that. So when things happen in your life, if you look at it like this poster says, and I don't, can people, well, you can read it because you have it on your thing, but what it says is mistakes. It could be that the purpose of your life is only to serve as a warning to others. I like that. It's kind of like putting things in perspective and looking at things in a funny way. You know, if things are happening to you, you know, don't get overstressed about it. The ability to access joy in difficult situations. Being able to see the irony and the humor in a situation when others only see aggravation. And there have been a lot of studies on this. And we talked briefly at the beginning about how do some people do better with stress while others don't do so well. Prisoners of war have been subjects of studies about this because some prisoners of war have done well, remarkably well, after being in solitary confinement for days and months, and others didn't do quite so well. One prisoner of war that they found that did better than the others, what he would do when he would be put into a dark room in solitary confinement, in his mind he would play a round of golf. He would do it in every detail. He would wake up in the morning, put on his clothes, drive to the golf course, put on his golf shoes, and he did this all in his mind. And he would play 2 rounds of golf a day. He actually got to look forward to that because he found the way to access joy in really adverse situations. This was in Vietnam when he was a prisoner of war. So the important thing to keep in mind from that is you have choices. Even in situations where it seems like there are no choices, like somebody's taking control of your life, somebody is making you do something you don't want to do, look for the choices that you have. Look for the things that you can access that will help you deal with those situations. Fortunately, most of us don't have to deal with being a prisoner of war and being put in solitary confinement. But for some of us, when we get really stressed, it can feel that way. And so look for things that you can find to help you enjoy and find the humor in things, the irony in things, and to put things in perspective. Find things that you laugh at and do it and laugh at them. I love watching sitcoms. Everybody knows what sitcoms are, situation comedies on TV. There's some really good ones on. And I like it because they take cultural issues that are causing a lot of stress in society now, and they can say things on sitcoms that people just can't get up in front of a microphone and say. And they do it in a humorous way, and they do it in a way that can make light of some very serious situations and give people a chance to laugh and back off and look at things in perspective. So look at life's contradictions and see if you can find the irony and the funny things in there and try to access some joy. Remember, put things in perspective. Everything is not what it appears to be. Can you see that? Okay. That is not the mail slot. And that guy's either a mailman or a plumber. We're not sure. All right, so things are not always what they appear to be, and I know that probably a lot of you have seen this, but somebody raise your hand and tell me what you see here. Yes, go ahead.
I see like an older woman and a young woman.
Okay. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
An older woman? Everybody? Yeah? Anybody who doesn't see it? Because we're going to force you to see it. No, you don't see it? Okay. Yes.
I don't see it. I see like a woman with,
Which?
yeah, with like resting like a bird on her shoulder.
Okay. Do you see the older woman?
No.
Okay. Here's her mouth. Here's her nose. Okay.
I saw a side of her face. It looked like she was resting a bird on her
Yeah.
shoulder.
Yes. That's the younger woman. And with the younger woman, this is her jaw, her jawline. and her head is turned a little bit, okay? So now that you see that, now that you see both of them, you'll be able to go back and forth and see both of them. We just gave you some perspective. So for something that you only saw one way, with a little bit of explanation, now you see it both ways. And so you got some perspective, right? And with the older lady, elderly lady, this is like a shawl or something around her neck here. So everybody see that? Okay. Here's another one. What do you see here?
I see like two older people, but then I see two people like...
Okay. Someone says they see two older people, and then they see two people with guitars. Mexican gentleman, looks like, with sombreros, playing guitars. Does everybody see that? Yeah?
One guy with guitars.
You see one? There's a guy here and a guy here.
Yeah, with the guitar on both sides?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't see from here. But yeah, the guitar is on that side. And actually, this looks like it might be a lady, right? I'm real close, so it's kind of blurry.
It's a woman holding a pot.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so, but you can see that there are two different ways to look at this, okay? And so the lesson here is, you may think you have the right answer, and you may be firmly telling people, no, this is the way to do it, this is it. And then when you step back and look at it and give it some perspective, then you see the other way to look at it. And we probably need to be doing that a little bit more with things that are going on today, is see, perspective, both sides, and try to work that out. But I just wanted to share those with you. If you're taking psychology, you're going to see both of those because that's staple in Psych 101. All right, where's stress coming from? Remember that other sources of stress, and we talked about this earlier, not related to college, don't go away because you're attending college. And we recognize that. In fact, those additional stressors can become compounded. And it can be really tough to keep your mind in the game as far as college is concerned. Keep in mind that all change can be stressful, even good change. Some of the most stressful times in people's lives are good times, like retirement can be very stressful. Getting married can be very stressful. Can you think of any other good things that happen in life that sometimes are stressful? College. Having kids. Yes.
New job.
For 49 years, having kids can be stressful. A new job. Yeah, getting a new job, you can be happy, but it can be very, very stressful. So there are things that one would think are, graduation could be stressful. But you would think that there are very positive things going on in people's lives, and they are, but they do cause stress. And so just be aware of that. If you're feeling stressed, but you don't know where it's coming from, think about what's happened in the last couple of weeks, or what's happening in my life, what's coming up. Because sometimes you can feel that stress, but you don't really know where it's coming from. But if you stop and think about it, what just happened, within the last month? What's going to be happening within the next few weeks or a few months? Some of these stressors are controllable, and some of them are not. One of the things that we work with when we work with students through health services is I ask them to get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and on one side, I want you to write down all of the things that you have control over. And on the other side, I want you to write down all of the things that you have no control over. No matter how much you try, you're not going to be able to control it. Okay? And then bring that back. That's part of the homework. First thing we do is we cut that in half. All of the things you have no control over, we wad it up and throw it away. And why worry about them? You have no control over it. So why would you sit and worry about something that you have absolutely no control over? Take that energy and move it over to the other side of that paper and work on the things that you know you have control over. And then start reducing your stress in your life. Social contacts you have control over. The amount of units that you take in college you have control over. You may not think you do, but really when it comes down to it, you do have control over that. If you're working part-time, do you have control over how many hours you work?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So if college and work is becoming very stressful, think about where can you do some adjustments. Can you reduce work hours? Can you reduce units? There are many times that I've told students, you know, you need to back off on the units. Some people come in taking 18, 20 units, and they say, I'm stressed, I don't know why. And I look at them and go, yeah. And then we talk about reducing units. And eventually, people, you know, sometimes come around to that and they feel more relaxed after doing that, even though it was a hard thing to do, because people get in their minds that I've got to finish as fast as I can, I got to get through this as fast as I can. And so we talk a lot about, well, what's the difference? You know, 5 years, 10 years from now, what's the difference if you finish in 2 years or 2.5 years? And what's the difference if you stress yourself out so much that you don't finish? So you need to look at what the implications are. Okay? And you can control whether you accept social invitations, right? So if you've got a lot of social activity going on and you're stressed because of that, back off on some of them. You know, don't schedule so many. Say, I'm sorry, I don't have time to do that right now. So to deal with stress, you have to recognize where it's coming from, what it is. This is a little chart to give you an idea of where it comes from. Stress comes from the environment. Okay? And when stress comes from the environment, any types of things out there could cause you to have stress. It affects you physiologically. You know, we talked about blood pressure. We talked about maybe not being able to sleep. It can affect your thoughts. It can affect your feelings. It can affect your behaviors. And so the important thing about this chart that I want you to look at is the arrows, are the arrows. The arrows go every which way. They're all connected. So what does that mean? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller?
They're all connected.
They're all connected, yes. Stress can affect any and all of those things. It can affect one or it can affect all of them. But the important thing to keep in mind is that stress can have a major impact on us. Okay? All right, the keys to managing stress. All of those people that just left are not going to get the keys to managing stress. They're going to go on being stressed. Because these are the important things. These are the things you paid for. These are the tools that we're going to give you, the secrets to life of how to manage stress. Okay? And the first thing you got to do is recognize and understand the signs of stress. And we've talked about those. Identify the sources of stress. You know, I know I'm feeling stressed. What's causing that? What are the sources? Learn to manage controllable sources. And that's that little list that we made. What do you have control over? What don't you have control over? So pick on the ones that you have control over. Don't waste time necessarily on the ones that you don't have control over. Learn to support yourself and cope with stress reactions to situations beyond your control. Okay? So if it's beyond your control, don't waste a lot of time trying to figure out how to take care of it. There are plenty of stressors that we don't have control over, but some can be addressed. I mean, we talked about how to reduce stress by maybe your class load. Re-examine your expectations of yourself. It can be painful to realize that we can't necessarily do and accomplish everything that we want to do. Maybe in the time frame that we want to do it. We might be able to do it, but we might need to readjust our schedule or our time frame. Use management strategies. Time management. Everybody know what time management is? Mm-hmm. So that's if you got a big homework assignment or a project, allow yourself enough time to do that. Break it down into small pieces. So you do a little bit at a time instead of waiting the night before it's due. That causes stress. But if you break it down into small pieces, I always ask students, how do you eat an elephant? Anybody know? How do you eat an elephant?
Bite by bite.
One bite at a time. Okay? So you don't try to eat it all at the same time. So that's the same way with things that are going on in life. Don't take it on all at once. So use time management. Find ways to break things down into small, manageable pieces, and you'll find that to be a great tool in managing stress. If you know you have a final coming up in 3 weeks, start 3 weeks ahead of time preparing for that. I never was one that could cram the night before for tests. I don't know how you guys do, if you can do that, but for me, if I'm cramming the night before tests, I'm a little bit stressed because I keep thinking, I'm never going to get all this. I'm never going to get it all. So, all right. Now here's the other key to life. If you get anything out of this presentation today, take this with you. E plus R equals O. And this is what a lot of therapy is based on, especially when you're looking at cognitive behavioral therapy. E plus R equals O. And I would ask you what these mean, but you have the handout, so I know you know what it means. So I used to ask that, I told you earlier, and people would come up with the answer, and I thought, that's great. They know that. They're reading my handout. So E plus R equals O. That's an event, and that's the E in this formula. An event, that's not necessarily the center of the event. I didn't find the center of the event on this one. So, all right. Plus, what's the R? Event plus response equals the outcome. Yes. Anything that happens in your life is an event. You have a choice how you want to respond to that. And that response will equal the outcome. Right? Road rage, for example. You're driving down the road, somebody pulls in front of you, and your first response is, I'm going to catch that guy and I'm going to kill him. You know, and that's, you know, that sounds drastic, but it happens. You read about it. Every once in a while, you read about somebody running somebody down on the freeway, and they get in a fight, and somebody ends up, you know, being killed, and the other person. So that event, the response to that event is a little bit harsh. You know, one person gets killed, one person goes to prison for many, many, many years. So that outcome is not too good. The other way to maybe handle a situation like that is the event is somebody pulls in front of you. You say to yourself, this is your response. Wow, that person almost caused an accident. I hope they're more careful next time. A lot different outcome, right? And you go your way, that person goes their way. And so keep in mind, when things happen in your life and it's stressful and you are wondering how to respond, think about the outcome. And just say to yourself, ERO, ERO. How do I want to respond to this event? I've been married 48 years, and I can tell you, I don't get this right sometimes. I don't respond the way I really should have, and I go back and say, okay, next time I'm going to look at the R a little bit closer. But that's good. Go back and assess how you respond to certain events. And if it didn't work, do some adjusting. And the next time something like that comes up, you'll have a better idea how you want it to end. So the important thing, again, we talked about it earlier, you do have the ability to respond. You have the ability to make choices, no matter what's going on in your life. There's a book out about a prisoner of war in World War II. I hate to get stuck on prisoners of war, but those are some of the most probably difficult situations that people go through. But this person was in the concentration camp and was in one of the buildings, and all that person had was a slit that he could see through. And all he could see out that slit was a sunflower. And so he found joy in watching that sunflower grow, or in watching the sun come up or the sun go down. So the event was, he was in a pretty bad situation. He had a choice of how he wanted to respond to that. He could become totally, he could give up, he could become very, in despair, or he could choose to find joy in something, to find beauty in something so terrible. And he did. And the outcome was that person got out of that prison camp, and that person wrote a book. And many people read that book and they take that to heart now. And I think the name of the book is The Sunflower. If it's not that, it's Man's Search for Meaning. And I'm not quite sure which one that is. But if you put in Google's great. Just put in prisoner of war, observing the sunflower. It'll come up. You'll find it. So you have choices how you want to respond. You can respond to an event rationally, You can respond positively, controlled, exploring your choices, and developing plans. That's how we hope you respond to events in your life. Or you can respond with tension, helplessness, a lack of control, blaming other people. There's the blame again. And the result of that's going to be you're going to get ill. It's going to be tough for you if you approach everything that way. And anybody know anybody that does that? You don't have to give me names. But yeah, there are people in probably your life and in my life, and you know that this is how they approach things. And you realize, you think, whoa, that person's going to get sick if they keep acting that way. And when I say sick, I mean either medical problems, blood pressure, health issues. So rationally, positively, controlled, exploring choices, developing plans. Those are the key. You're the boss. Okay? And this is from Virginia Satir. She is a family systems therapist. And the message here is that pain is inevitable. We're going to have pain in our life. We're not going to be able to escape it. Suffering is optional. Okay? Does that make sense? Pain's going to happen. How you respond to it depends on you. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't feel pain for certain things that go on, but how much of that pain you want to feel, or how much of that you want to make your responsibility, how much of that you're going to take on yourself is optional. That's up to you. So to beat stress, get some sleep. 7 or 8 hours minimum on a regular schedule. Everybody here get 7 or 8 hours sleep? Yeah. No? Try to. Okay? That's very helpful. You may be used to operating on less sleep and an irregular schedule, but it's not as easy to handle stress when you're really tired. So try to get your sleep. Exercise every day. Get some exercise, well, at least 3 times a week, not every day. And they're saying now 20 to 30 minutes at least 3 times a week is good. That helps beat stress. Choose an activity that you enjoy, not one that seems to be a chore, because if it is a chore, you're not going to do it. So find the exercise that you like. Walking the dog, walking through the park, something that you're going to continue to do. Keep your eating moderate and avoid doing drastic diets. Somebody will go on a diet one week, then off a diet, and on a diet. So try to keep your eating regular and your nutrition up. Watch what you eat. Watch what you put into your body. Avoid excessive sugar, caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, drugs. You all know that. Learn relaxation exercises. There are a ton of relaxation videos on YouTube. In fact, I have 3 or 4 of them that I've chosen, and I do send those to students after I meet with them, because you can just play them on your iPhone, your smartphone. Plug your earphones in, and at night, if you can't go to sleep, feeling stressed, use some of those. They work. Learn to relax. Learn how to trigger your body to relax. So learn the breathing exercises, how to breathe deeply, let it out, relax, and then learn how to do that before you take a test. Go somewhere, sit for 2 minutes, and just zone out and relax. And I think you might find that you'll do better when it comes time to take the test. Use time management techniques. Again, break it down into manageable parts and be sure that you have time to complete what you need to complete. Take time out of your life for fun. Find the things that you enjoy. I notice that one of the things that doctors always do now, the doctor's offices, and you probably have heard them do this, the first questions they ask you when you go in, are you feeling helpless? Are you feeling hopeless? Are you enjoying things? It's called a patient health questionnaire, but a lot of the medical offices are doing this now, because those are red flags to depression. Those are red flags to stress. And so if people answer yes to both of those, they may ask you a few more questions and then ask you about how you're handling those types of things. So you might see that or hear that when you go to the doctors now. They're becoming much more aware of the stress and depression that people are feeling. So how do you know when enough is enough? You seek professional help when you've tried all that you can do and you're still overly stressed and feeling run down. You've done everything that you can do. Then talk to somebody. Go see somebody. When you suspect that you're dealing with more than just stress, and again, the questions, are you feeling hopeless? Are you not enjoying the things that you used to enjoy? Those are red flags. Okay? When your physical health is deteriorating, that's a good time to seek help. Go talk to somebody. Come see us at Health Services or go see your doctor. We're there for you. Are you turning to other means, such as alcohol or drugs, to deal with stress? People many times self-medicate. And so sometimes people, when they drink a lot or they use drugs, they're actually self-medicating because it makes them feel better. And if people are so stressed or they're feeling depressed that they need to self-medicate, we would like to get them hooked up with a doctor so that it's the medication that's best for you, not a medication that's going to get you hooked, like alcohol or drugs, and you're going to end up, down the road needing much more help. Okay, so be aware of that. And I want to just go over some resources with you. Our Health Services office is available. And they provide a lot. Is everybody familiar with health services? Yeah? No? They provide a lot of services there. And I think it's listed here. Is it, Araceli?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we are. So these are the services that Health Services provides, and there's a lot there. And included in that is mental health and counseling and therapy and referrals. So we have that for you. And then the other resource, of course, is the Counseling Center, and they're available. And they have some links too I wanted to share with you. They have Learn to Relax, which is a really good link. And these are on the Counseling Center page. The Career Cafe, assist.org. These are things that can help you with your academics too, in looking at colleges and what they're going to require. Haven Women's Center is a good resource for women who are abused, or who are being threatened, who are in abusive situations. And then Stanislaus County 211 is a good resource for any type of services that you're looking for. And I think you can call 211 on the phone. I think you can just get on, dial 211, and you'll get them. So that's available. So be aware of these types of services and use them. And then another important one that we share with students is called the Warm Line. And the Warm Line is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'd like you to write, well, you have it on your, I think I put it on there, didn't I?
No.
No, it's not on there. Okay, please, I think I added it. So yeah, add the Warm Line, 558-4600. And feel free to share that number with anybody that you know that might need to talk to somebody at any time of the day, 7 days a week. So if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, the Warm Line's available. There's somebody there to help you, and they're wonderful. And they will provide resources. They'll spend time talking to you if you just need to talk. Yeah?
I actually work for them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Well, go. You go tell them that we're giving them a good word. Do you work on the phone?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Fantastic. Well, here we are. And they do a great job. They do a great job. In fact, I call them sometimes when I have students in my office, just to kind of get the students. Is there a fellow named Paul? Paul that works there? Or?
So that answers the phone?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure.
I think that was his name, but I've just been very impressed, very impressed. So keep up the good work. And like I said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they're available. So I have some handouts here I'll give you on your way out. If you want, you can come up and get them. It's called a safety plan. Know when to get help, identify your internal coping skills, and it's just something that you can fill out and take a look at if you want to see where you are in this whole process. We have a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions?